All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another stream. We're going to be doing editing today. Can I just start by saying something, which is this green screen is a pain in the butt to put on, because it's not like one of those fancy green screens where you can like pull it up, you know? It's not a permanent fixture in my home, so I end up taping it to the wall, which, you know, it's not great. It does its job, which is all that I really need. But one of these days, yes, I did gaff it. Oh, you're saying you're using, it's a double entendre. Gaffed as in messing up, but also gaffed as in this is literally gaff tape. That stuff, all that black stuff. That's, by the way, gaff tape is amazing. Anyone who's worked in theater, I'm sure, already knows this, but when I started using it, I was like, wow, this stuff is like a miracle in material sciences. But this music is still very loud to me. Let me do something about that. Maybe it's just this song in particular. I'm gonna bring it down though. There, that's a little bit better. So, welcome. We're gonna be editing, of course, today's video and diving into all that jazz. But first off, before we get into that, I just want to thank all of you for joining. I see a bunch of you over on YouTube. That's always good to see. As well as folks over on Twitch. So that's awesome. Thanks for joining. Appreciate that. So here's kind of the deal. Right now, we're just getting started. Like literally, I am currently transferring the video files over from the camera to my computer. So I took out the card, and the files are transitioning over. Once we get those onto the computer, we're gonna pop them into Adobe Premiere, and we're gonna start editing. But we have a little bit of time while we're waiting for that, so I figured I'd just talk about other stuff. I know that some of you may have joined me for the last stream where I was playing Spore, the game Spore, and that was a lot of fun. And I hope to do more of that soon. We're playing Spore, and we were talking about evolutionary psychology, which will actually be not the video that we're editing today, but the video that comes after that. So that'll be an ongoing adventure. And I surprisingly loved Spore way more than I thought I would. So we'll end up doing more of that in the future. But for today, the main focus is going to be working on this next video. You might be saying, well, what is this video all about? Well, it's sort of a special video this time, special topic. Essentially, we have one of our Patreon supporters who was supporting us at our highest level, which was pretty incredible. And totally unexpected. And to be honest, we put it on there as a joke, not a joke. It wasn't a joke, I guess, but I put it on there as like pie in the sky, you know, nobody's ever gonna donate at this level, but why not, right? And surprise, surprise, they did. So anyway, this patron's name is Ryan. Really, really nice guy. He's a graduate student. And that's another reason why it's surprising. Like, how does a graduate student have the finances to be able to do that? But, you know, not my business. But anyway, a really nice guy. We've talked to him a few times, and he seems like just a genuinely nice dude who has been with us a long time. He's been watching Neurotransmissions from like very early on. So anyway, he recommended this topic to us, or we sort of collaborated and came up with the topic, and so you'll see shortly kind of what that's all about. But it's something that he's done a little bit of writing on in the past, and so we got to get some of his expertise, plus a lot of the content that we cover in this video is talked about in greater depth in our book, which I'll pull out just for the fun of it. Maybe y'all are sick of seeing this, but our book, Brains Explained, came out in May, right? June. Came out in June. Available everywhere. You can pick it up. I know that, some of you might have already picked this up. Peter, I think I see you in the chat there. I know that you were just showing off the library copy that you had, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, you can pick this up. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever. You might need to request it if you go to a local bookstore. Same thing with the library. You can actually request a copy at the library. And you don't even have to pay for it. I mean, pay for it if you want, but then you're adding it to the wealth of knowledge that the library holds. So anyway, here's the deal. We're almost to the point where we are gonna be streaming. Here, let me show you. So, let's switch scenes here. Boom. So, here's what we're working with. We're 69% complete. Nice. And hopefully we'll be done soon. It's moving. You know, it was 50 gigs, which actually isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. We've made it through pretty quickly in terms of we filmed fairly concisely. But even at that rate, there's still a lot of material to get through, so there's still a lot of data, I guess. We only filmed for like a little bit over an hour. And so an hour, 50 gigs, like a little bit less than a gig per minute, which isn't too bad. So, hey Big M, speaking of clever librarians, could you turn up your audio by 2 or 3 decibels? Heck yeah. Let me do that. Hey, let me turn it up on this end. You tell me if I'm peaking though, okay? Let me do it on this end. Here, is that better? And if the music's too loud, you let me know. I can lower it, because I feel like the music is maybe too loud. Just voice volume? All right, great. Perfect. How are y'all doing out there? It's nice to see so many folks checking in. So we're gonna get into editing here. Let me actually, what I can do right off the bat is pull in the audio. So let's do that first things first. Okay, so this video, if you can see the title right there, or even at the top, although I think the top is cut off, no big deal. This week's video is all about essentially a brief history of brain science. So we're going to be talking about psychology, we're going to be talking about neuroscience, and perhaps more specifically, the divide between the two. Essentially, when did neuroscience and psychology diverge into their own separate arenas, right? So that's what we're hoping to cover. That's what we do cover in this video. Hopefully it is enough material. This is the hard part of videos like this. Okay, we're talking about history, right? And we're covering a lot of history in a very short amount of time. And we weren't really looking to do like an hour-long plus video, because that can obviously get pretty bogged down. Oh, my screen's getting all messed up. I just need to have some water. So we decided to keep it brief and focused, and hopefully that's good for everybody. While we're waiting, we're getting close. We're at 85%, so we're almost there. While we're waiting, let me share the thumbnail with you. I don't normally do the thumbnail until literally the day that we're uploading it, which maybe I should do that earlier, but it's usually the last thing on my mind. I usually spend all of my time editing the video, and then at the end I'm like, oh shoot, I need a thumbnail. But here's what I came up with. What do you think of that? Is that a good thumbnail? Like if you saw that on YouTube, would you click on that? Or should I change it in some way? So this is a 3D model that I just brought into a Starscape and changed the material a little bit to make it somewhat reflective, so it seems shiny, I guess. So Peter, you're saying you feel like not quite enough contrast against text and brain. So you're saying in this area here, not quite clear enough. Perhaps we need something more. I put a little bit of shadow behind, but maybe it's not enough. You know, maybe we need a little bit more. What's everybody else saying here? You would definitely click on that? That's good. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Wonderful. What's my favorite thing about psychology? Oh, sorry, I missed that before. Avi. By the way, thanks for joining. I feel like you come to every stream, and I really appreciate that. Favorite thing about psychology? That is a really good and difficult question. I like that. You know, this might sound like a weird answer, but what I like about psychology is that it is a fairly undiscovered area of research. I mean, you can make arguments that a lot of... The rain is going wild out here. You can make an argument that a lot of different areas of research are similar, but with psychology, we have such limited like a limited understanding of how the brain operates, how our minds function, how to address concerns with the mind, that like I feel like there's still a lot of low-hanging fruit, so to speak, in the research realm. And from my perspective as like a therapist, I think it presents a lot of opportunity to experiment, try new things, learn more. You know, it feels like every year there's more and more coming out about how to, you know, about best practices and whatnot. So I would say that's my favorite thing about psychology. That's a very broad answer. All right. So here's the Photoshop file for this, right? Help me workshop this real quick. So a lot of you were saying, yes, I would click on that thumbnail. That's great. Peter, you were saying maybe a little bit more contrast. The shadow helps. Can you make it, unmake the font fatter? You say you want the font to be thinner? I can do that. Can you make the bold bolder? Oh, that's what you mean. I can. Wait, is this Arial? I thought that I changed the font because I actually didn't want Arial. You might hear some thunder in the background here, okay? Because usually I use graphic. So we've already found an issue. Where is it? There it is. So normally I go with medium. I get the impression you're saying that is not enough. So let's try going from medium to, there's semi-bold versus medium. Wait, semi-bold, slightly fatter. Or there's bold. Ooh, now we're getting bold. Or there's black, even fatter. Or super, enormous. All right. Yeah, look at that absolute. Okay, that is. Well, first off, let me just say, there's not enough space between this. I don't like that at all. You like that? I don't like that. I missed the premise of the video you're editing from the thumbnail. I would think it's a history of our understanding of the brain. Kind of. You're not far off, Merlin. So that's a good thing. The video is going to be titled "A Brief History of Brain Science." So that is actually accurate. So I'm glad that the thumbnail is doing some of the heavy lifting here. And Avi, you said, I totally agree. My favorite thing is being able to tap into people's minds to some degree, which enables you to present yourself best to the other person or people. Yeah. I mean, think about it, right? What is most important to most people in the world? It is living your life to the fullest, feeling like you are making a difference, having a high quality of life. And so I feel like, you know, if we can tailor therapy to meet those goals, then we're doing a good job. Super is too much. Let's go to bold. So we could do this and make it slightly larger. Oh, thanks Lena for the sub. So there's that guy. Let me do something real quick. I want to mess with the blending options. So Vanilla Carnivore, great name by the way. You said the previous one looked better. So tell me what you think of this just in bold. Let's bump up the opacity a little bit on some of these drop shadows. Just to give ourselves, let's keep the spread a little bit closer on this one. And the size closer as well. Nope, not too close. That seems better. Okay. So we got to look at it from far out, right? Because it's going to be about that big when you see it on the screen. So yes, Avi, you literally just read my mind. So it's going to be about that big, or wait, it'll probably be about that big when you look at it on your phone, right? No, most likely with your screen, maybe about that big, something like that. I think that's good. So Peter and Vanilla Carnivore, we're sort of mixing both. We're still fatter than we were before, right? So here, let me pull up the old one. Where is it? Here we go. So here's the old one, right? Versus the new one. What do you think? I kind of like the fat look, and also I'm glad that it's not Arial anymore, because we've been trying to keep it consistent with our fonts. Yeah, that's nice. You like that? For what it's worth, your stream takes up a bit less than a quarter of my screen, and bold helps a lot. You like the new one most? Font does also make a difference. Totally agree. Okay, good. So better with this font. On the phone, it's bigger. That is true, actually. Funny thing, the thumbnail on the phone is bigger than on the desktop. Preview both in 210 by 118 so we can better judge. All right, hang on. So it'll probably be, for most of you, about that big. And let's open up that thumbnail again. We'll get that about the same size. Oh my gosh. Why? Like that. And that. Okay, what'd you think of that? Is that good? John, I appreciate the compliment. I think I'm pretty cute too. You like the new one most. Also, you know that one NASA photo of the Sombrero Galaxy or whatever it's called that was super popular as a desktop for most of the late 2000s? This thumbnail gives big it vibes. Good. I definitely like this one more. I agree that having it fatter makes it way more readable. So it's slightly smaller, but we'll do the job. Or you can go as small as you want, Avi. I just, everybody's screen size is going to be different in terms of how they're watching my stream right now. It's like that big. Way more readable here, I'll say. The bolder one does catch the eyes more. I agree. Okay, we're going to stick with that. Great. Let's save it then. Save. Thank you for your advice. Hopefully that means that this video is now going to go viral, and I will become the #1 most subscribed YouTuber on the internet. Okay. Just pick whatever I want. I do, but I care about, what you all think. You're the ones that are going to be, clicking on this thing. Is this font in particular favored? It is. This font is what we use in our actual videos. So I'd like to keep it somewhat consistent in the same way that we used to use a different font. Here, I'll show you that one. It's called Science Fair. We've moved away from that. It's a bit kiddish, right? Also, not that easy to read, it would turn out. So, anyway, we're gonna stick with this guy. Thank you all for the feedback. All right, let's get into the video editing. That's what you're really here for, maybe. Or maybe you're here for me. In which case, I appreciate you. All right, let's pull in our files. We're already pulled in the audio. Let's pull in the video and import that stuff. It'll take a little bit for it to load up. Seems like the storm is rolling over. It's not raining as hard as it was before. Cool. All right, so we've imported the video, but now as you can see, oh, no, you can't see because I'm in the way. As you can see down in this corner right there, it's actually loading up the video. I can't tell you how many times when I was first starting video editing, I would think to myself, you know, I would put my video in, and then I would immediately try to work with it and be like, oh, why is all the audio unsynced, and why is, you know, blah blah blah, all these issues. And it's because it was still actually loading it into the system and creating a file for me to use. So, you know, that's a good point, Peter. This really is a galaxy brain photo. Let's pull it up again while we're waiting for that, because I like looking at it. I think it's a nice looking photo. Now, normally you're not going to see it this large, I guess, unless you're on like a TV or projector, right? But it's pretty nice. It's not bad. Does the job. I could, you know, put some famous scientists in the corners. Nah, that's too busy. You want to keep it simple. It's like you could use the stars to make an outline of Freud, or like some like Hodgkin and Huxley. Nobody knows what those guys look like anyway, though. We're not going to do that. By the way, is it okay to tell about a Chrome extension that I made? I mean, nobody's stopping you. You can go right ahead. I don't know if it's something that I'll be into or anything, but you know, there's no harm, I suppose, as long as it's nothing that's hurting anybody. Keep it simple? Yeah, I agree. All right, great. Wonderful. Here we go. This is what we're going to do now. We are totally loaded in with our video and audio. So, sorry, give me 1 second. Let's start the editing process. Now, before I go on, real quick, I want to just let y'all know that if you're joining from YouTube right now, right? It's great to watch on YouTube. I have no problem with y'all watching on YouTube, and I hope to continue doing that, you know, going forward. And I'm simultaneously streaming over on Twitch. If you only want to watch the stuff that's about the video editing side of things, stuff that relates to neurotransmissions, then watching on YouTube is the right way to go. But if you like using Twitch as a platform, or if you, let me just put this in here. If you like using Twitch, or if you would like to see stuff other than just neurotransmission stuff, like me playing video games for fun, or just hanging out and chatting, that sort of thing, then go over and sub on Twitch if you would like to. So I would say maybe about, well, recently it's been a lot more, but I would say usually about half of my streams are simultaneously streamed over to YouTube. So there's a whole half that you might be missing out on, where I'm just like hanging out and chilling. So anyway, totally up to you guys. Oh, look at that. Avi's already gone over and subbed over on Twitch. Well, thank you, Avi. I appreciate that. And also left a comment said, I made an extension, YouTube Audio HD plus FPS, that has 60K users. Nice. So it takes, if I'm hearing you, if I'm understanding this correctly, it takes some like crappy 420p video and upscales it, or how does that work exactly? And like makes it 60 frames per second? Is it using AI? Like how does this thing work? All right, let's drop in the video. First things first, I gotta create a project. We gotta get moving. I really wanna get this video done by Friday if possible. Probably won't happen. It's going up on next Wednesday, so not this upcoming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. I wanna get it done before the weekend because I'm going out of town, all right? I'm going to the middle of the woods, the middle of nowhere. I'm not gonna be around people, right? I'm not gonna be bringing my computer with me. I don't wanna be editing when I'm like chilling out there, okay? So we really need to buckle down get a lot of work done today, and then that way I can just relax and kick back and play with fire and eat s'mores and all that good stuff. So first things first, let's create a new sequence. We're editing in 1080, 29.97 frames per second. That's just the frame rate that I've been using lately. Seems to work. Brief history of brain sciences. Now here's a question for y'all. Would you rather click on a video, and this is perhaps minor, and maybe you have other title suggestions, but right now the working title for the video is A Brief History of Brain Sciences. Would you click on that? Would you prefer A Brief History of Brain Science? Or there's other options. We were coming up with a few of them. There was Now, these aren't great titles that we came up with. Never mind, I'm not even going to say them. But if you have a title suggestion, let me know, because we're going to be going through this and picking the best one. All right, so first things first. Let me grab all my video, and boom, drop it right in. We're going to keep the existing settings, and we got our video right off the bat on our timeline, okay? I'm gonna zoom out. You can see, look, it only took us, what, an hour and 5 minutes to film this. That is not bad in the grand scheme of things. We were running through this. Now, normally, we would be filming in multiple locations, but since both Allie and I are in this video, which is kind of unusual for us, we don't normally film a ton of videos together. We wanted to keep it a little bit simpler. Because you're working with one, I mean, we have multiple microphones, but then you have different microphone quality, and it gets messy. So we were filming with one nice microphone, which is the microphone that I'm actually using right now. This guy, right? Nice shotgun microphone. Just to have the most consistency. Now, hopefully that does not introduce a bunch of problems in terms of levels. That's the problem that you may run into. So we're gonna just synchronize this first clip with the audio, and then we can move all of these and line them up accordingly. So what happens with my camera, it splits up the video into 5 or 10 minute segments. I guess it'd be 5-minute segments, just so that each file is smaller, and your computer can run through it a little bit faster. Like, that would be the problem. If you film an hour-long clip, and then you try to import that from your SD card onto your computer, you run the risk of the file getting corrupted, and now you've lost all of that video. Or if the file is really big and your computer has a hard time importing that, then it can crash your computer, that sort of thing. Or even on Premiere, right? Working with giant clips can become problematic, because now you just have so much data tied to one thing that it becomes unmanageable. But that's not going to be a problem for us, because it actually has divided up all these clips. So it's synchronized the audio. I'm going to cut off the end here, and we can grab these other clips here and pull them over. Perfect. It literally does what the human would be doing otherwise. If the quality is available, select it. Otherwise, select the highest available, nothing fancy. Oh, okay. So essentially you're just picking the highest quality on YouTube. I already do that. It's kind of annoying where I start watching like a trailer for a movie or something like that. And I'm like, man, why is the quality so crappy? And I have to go in and like change it to the 1080 high definition or 4K 60 frames per second or whatever that they have available. All right, we'll cut off the end of the audio there as well. Boom, boom, boom. I think A Brief History About Brain Science is a good title. You'd click that, get cool shirt. I imagine you're not talking about this shirt, because it's just a plain shirt. But you're probably talking about my Dungeon Master shirt, or rather Dungeon Meowster. Not my brother gave that to me. It's a fun one, I like it. Okay, so we've cut off the edges. Now what we got to do is come to the audio that we have that was recorded externally to the nice microphone. We're gonna cut where the video cuts, like that, right? And now what we're gonna do is, let's just make sure that the audio lines up. We'll just go to the end here. Now, this was a very brief history of brain.
Memories and
Yummy. Cognitive and social realm. Okay, somewhere it gets a little bit off. There have been tons and tons of psychology research studies focused specifically on behavior. It's like barely off. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Let's just see what it sounds like without. Let me turn the music down a little bit more. And then we'll boost up that. And then let's try this. Ready? I'm going to solo that audio. They're influential scientists, physicians, and psychologists. And seriously, like there's, okay, I think that sounds fine. It does, you know, the problem or the worry is that it gets so out of sync that it becomes noticeable, and I don't think that's the case. So I'm gonna select all the camera audio, delete it. We don't need it, it's garbage. We're going to then, oops, not synchronize. We're going to link the video to the correct external audio. Now, if there was a way to automate this, I would love to find something that does that. Because it's not that this is hard, right? To get your video all set up. It's just kind of tedious, you know? So if I could give this to like a machine, that would be amazing. Let's see here. Great. That's all set to go. So now if I click on, you know, one of these clips, then it'll also select the audio that goes with it. Wonderful. Now what we're gonna do is start editing. First things first, I want to get the base color correction going. So let's use that one. This music sounds like that. What's that one song? Sounds like a popular pop song that's out right now. Oh, you want to hear a weird story? I was when we were setting up for filming, I got everything ready. You know, all the lights were set up, the microphone was set up, and we checked the audio ahead of time to make sure that the levels are right and that it sounds good. And for whatever reason, when I turned on the microphone and was listening to it, I could hear this like crackling in the background. And I was like, oh no, like what's the problem? We were on carpeting, so I was like, maybe it's like the static electricity of the carpet is transferring to the, I don't know, to the cable and is like messing with the microphone or something. I was like kind of stumped. So I ended up switching the cable out, the XLR cable, and got a new one that I'd literally never used before, and plugged that in. And it still was the same issue. It was still crackling like crazy. And I was like, there must be something wrong with the microphone. That's the only explanation. And so I was, you know, and it's a pricey microphone. And I was like, this is not a good situation. So I, you know, in sort of a moment of genius, I decided to do a little bit of percussive maintenance. You can't be very hard with these microphones, right? You don't want to hit them, you don't want to bang them on stuff. It has like a protector that keeps it from getting damaged. And so I just turned it off, and then I blew on it a little bit, right? And somehow that fixed it. Not sure why. Maybe there was some dust in there or something like that. But it worked. So I am not complaining. But next time you have some microphone issues, blow on it lightly. Don't blow out your microphone. Whoa. All right. So here we run into an issue, which is when I started messing with the video. I purposefully left it underexposed so that the background didn't get totally blown out, right? You can still see the shades here. There is obviously a section. I wasn't gonna underexpose it even more because I worry about it going too low and then you crush the blacks on the other end and you can't recover detail from that. So not a big deal if this is blown out a little bit. But with this tool, if I don't preserve the lightness, then it gets totally blown out, right? Which is a problem. Avi, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. It's 1 a.m. there. Where are you? Well, enjoy your sleeping, and I will enjoy my editing. Good seeing you. So anyway, what I'm probably going to do is keep it underexposed for now as the LUT. So we're going to export this LUT as main LUT. Did that export to the right place? It did. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, right? We'll apply, go to Lumetri color and apply that to the clip. And we'll drop that down. And from right here, we can import the LUT that we just created. Right there. Boom. Okay. But it's still dark, at least for my liking. So what I'm going to do is up the exposure. Ooh, too much. Maybe to there. The colors look kind of off to me, right? They look... I'm very red. Allie looks great. Maybe my face is just really red in this. Who knows? This isn't too overexposed, but we can actually come down here into the creative section and pick a look. And there are certain HDR settings that we can use. I usually go for the clean Kodak HDR, right? And what that'll do is it will preserve some of the detail of that light back there, some of the stuff that gets blown out. And the colors will look a little bit nicer, right? So we go from this very blue, cold kind of look, and with the detail being lost to the light, to now having a much crisper image and nicer colors. So that's what we're gonna do. Israel, nice. Well, enjoy your rest. I'm sure I'll see you later on. Okay, so we got that. I want to add a little bit of contrast, I think. Let's bump up some of the vibrance. I want to go overboard, but having that color really makes things pop a bit. The whites can come down maybe a little bit, like that. Oops. I'm trying to just get some contrast because with that light in the background, I want to make sure that the outline of Allie's head here doesn't get blown out. So that's looking decent. We got a nice line. Oh, thanks Ghost Monks for following over on Twitch. Appreciate that. So if you're just joining, right? If you are a new joiner to the stream, what we're doing right now is we're going through, I'm editing the video that's going to go up next Wednesday. It's all about, it's called A Brief History in Brain Sciences. So that's the strategy. That's what we're doing today. And I literally am just starting, so you're getting the very beginning of this whole process. Okay. Not too bad yet. I think give it a slight tint. Oop, that's not the right color that I was looking for. Slight change in temperature. That's perhaps a bit too yellow. That might be okay. It still seems a bit dark to me. Let's try 1.3. I tend to go for higher exposure. I could probably get away with lower exposure, but I just want to make sure that we are exposed correctly, right? I don't care if the window's too blown out, as long as it doesn't create the halo effect around. Ghost monks. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing how you tackle this video. Thanks, appreciate that. So, all right, so we've got more or less the color correction. I might do some more later on. I'm not totally satisfied with it. It sort of has like a gray film over it or something like that. It's hard to describe, but I'm not totally satisfied with how it's looking right now. Let's try bumping up the highlights. That helps a little bit. Yeah, that's not awful. I don't know. I'm gonna mess with it a little bit more as we go on, I think, but this is good for a starting place. I just want to make sure that it I don't know, that it looks okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna copy that Lumetri color effect, paste it to the rest of the video, and now next thing that we need to do is figure out audio, because it's not so much for me, but for you guys listening. I want to make sure that you're able to hear the audio. So we'll just arbitrarily bump up the gain on this by about +8. Ooh, that's maybe a little bit too high. Let's do 5 then. 5. That seems manageable. Okay. Might still be high, but it'll be good for listening on your guys' end.
Thanks, Ryan. So buckle in, kids, because we're digging into a...
I think I will bump it up to 8, actually. Audio gain 8.
brief history of brain sciences.
Okay, I think that'll be fine. If you guys are having trouble hearing the audio, by the way, just let me know. Okay, so now we've got some of the baseline stuff finished. I don't think we're gonna keep this beginning part. Let's just see if there's anything interesting.
Do you want to do the color?
Oh yeah. No, nothing interesting there. All right, great. So let's go through and start editing this dang thing, okay? Cutting away. We're cutting the wheat from the chaff, as it were. Your last video was very interesting. Shame there isn't a cure. Thanks. A cure. Isn't a cure. Are you talking about epilepsy? Or what are you talking about? I actually don't know. That was our last video, right? No, it was the Dunning-Kruger effect. A cure for the Dunning-Kruger effect? That would be interesting. I don't think there's a cure for the Dunning-Kruger effect. You can't keep people from being ignorant. Well, you can't keep people from being ignorant about everything. But I appreciate that. Thank you. That was a fun video. I feel like I was somewhat finding my style or something. All right, let's get into this.
Put it here?
Is there a way to
Here?
increase the speed of playback? Can I change playback speed? Let me actually look this up. Blah, 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 blah. You can hit L to speed up playback of your video. What? That's nuts. Oh, it's just like YouTube. And so, okay, so the more times you hit J, the faster the clip will play back in reverse. Dang, this is new to me. That's cool. What does K do? Conveniently, the letter K sits right between. Use the letter K to quickly pause between fast forward and reverse of your clips. Simply pauses or stops playback. Wow, guys, I'm learning so much new stuff. Okay, here we go. Ready? Let's try this out. Put it here. Put it here. Whoa. Put it here. Okay, that should be good.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I haven't done a video together in a while.
No.
Cool. Yay. Haven't done a video together. Okay. Well, that's a new revelation for me. What? So, all right. So we've learned how to fast forward our playback. I can't believe that I've been using this program for how long? And I literally just found that out. Yet more credence to, or more support for the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? What do I know? Okay, let's play this again.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Haven't done a video together in a while.
No.
Might keep that beginning in here.
Early in our relationship, when we were in college, Micah and I used to have joking conversations where we would talk about which was better, neuroscience or psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I was focused.
All right, I think we have a better take of this later on, because that one's about to run out there. So let me just.
Biology of the brain.
Okay, yeah, because it gets cut off, blah, blah, blah. We end up doing some adjustments, come back. So again, we'll sort of keep the little starting stuff. I kind of like having like a little bit of human moments at the start, depending on if they fit or not. Here we go.
Yeah, do it again. Early in our relationship, when we were in college, Micah and I used to have joking conversations where we argued about which was better, neuroscience or psychology.
Clearly it's psychology.
I was focused on understanding the biology of the brain.
And I wanted to understand the mind and consciousness.
All those conversations were a long time ago, and for many years we've been in firm agreement that neither psychology nor neuroscience is better than the other. But they are different. And since we're not flirtatiously trying to one-up the other person anymore, or at least usually not about that, it's not something we've given that much thought to recently, until we started talking to one of our patrons about it.
Okay, I know that I mess up right here because I messed up a lot. Allie's like amazing at doing her lines. And meanwhile, I just like trip up on everything. So Allie thinks that I have dyslexia. Possibly, who knows? Tim Bailey, how's it going? It's fascinating to watch this. I'm learning to edit videos on DaVinci Resolve. Seeing your thought process and approach is instructive even though it's a different program. That's great, I'm glad to hear that. I so want to try DaVinci Resolve, if for nothing else than for the color program that is part of DaVinci Resolve, because my understanding is that their color correction and color grading software is just like amazing, and it blows my mind that it's even a free program, you know. But yeah, so and I've never used it before, so I can't speak to other facets of it, but all I know is that it uses nodes rather than using, well, like I guess plugins, right? I just want to say I love seeing the oogly eyes you two give each other. That's good to know, Peter. Hopefully not grossing anybody out. Okay, we got another take. Let's see if there's any sort of...
Your hair looks...
Okay, we're gonna keep the beginning there. Let's see this
In our
take.
relationship, when we were in college, Micah and I used to have joking conversations about which was better, neuroscience or psychology.
Psychology.
I was focused on understanding the biology of the brain.
And I wanted to understand the mind and consciousness.
All of those conversations were a long time ago, and for many years, we've been in firm agreement that neither psychology nor neuroscience is better than the other.
Except for psychology.
But they are different. And since we're not flirtatious,
Okay, so we got a little mess up there.
different. And since we're not flirtatiously trying to
Hang on. Let me pull up the keyboard. I realize where the heck was that thing? What the heck was that program called? Hang on. Let me pull up the keyboard for y'all. Some people like to see the keystrokes as I'm going through. Let me see if I can even find it. Where would that thing be? One moment. Thank you for your patience. It would be... What the heck was that thing called? No board. Okay, that's not in there. It must be in here. There it is. Nope, that didn't work. How about... just show me where it is. One moment. There we go. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, so now you can see, anytime I'm pressing a key up there. If that's something that you're into, right? I know that, for example, Tim, if you're watching and you want to see what I'm, the keystrokes that I'm making, some of the hotkeys are not the hotkeys that are used with Premiere. I just custom put them in. For example, you'll see me as I'm playing through this stuff, right? I'll be playing and spacebar obviously play, which is the native, but then I'll press Z and that'll cut the clip at the playhead. And if I cut that and then I go up here and I cut that, I can press Shift Z and it'll select the clip before, or Shift X and it'll select the clip after. And then once I have the clip selected, I can press X to ripple delete, which will delete the clip and then move all of the clips afterwards back. So it just makes the process a little bit easier for me. Okay.
And since we're not flirtatiously trying to one-up the other person anymore, at least usually not about that, it's not something we've given that much thought to recently, until we started talking to one of our patrons about it.
Ryan Shaver, a philosophy student, brainiac extraordinaire, and longtime supporter of neurotransmissions, approached us with a really interesting and complicated topic that he's done some writing about actually in the past. How and when did the study of the brain split into the vast and different fields of neuroscience and psychology? Well, we thought that sounded like a pretty good topic. And
Great performance, Micah.
Ryan Shaver,
Yeah, you're gonna mess up that one too.
Ryan Shaver
I always feel bad when I do this because Allie is just like so on top of it, right? Does it in like one take wonder. Meanwhile, I'm like,
About it.
start that over again.
Ryan Shaver.
But I will say, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my craft, right? And I feel like I get the takes that I want when I'm doing this.
Ryan Shaver, a philosophy student, brainiac extraordinaire, and longtime supporter of neurotransmissions, approached us with a really interesting and complicated topic that he's actually written about in the past. How and why did the study of the brain split into the vast and very different fields of neuroscience and psychology? Well, we thought that sounded pretty interesting and a pretty awesome topic, and thanks to his generous backing all these years, we've decided that Ryan is actually going to be our sponsor for this video. So that's right, you're not gonna, when you get to the end of the video and you realize that we did not seamlessly transition into an ad read, well, you can thank Ryan. Actually, why don't you just go ahead and give him a thanks right now in the comments. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Okay, great. That is a good take. We're gonna keep that one.
We're not flirtatious
Shaver.
We're just gonna
About
put
it.
this. Great. Delete that. Keep the other one. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Ryan. Ryan's pretty cool. Cool guy. Boom, 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 boom.
I think you have mild dyslexia.
See? She says it right there.
I think you have mild dyslexia.
She thinks I have mild dyslexia. I wonder that because, well, I feel like I maybe should know this, but I don't. Can you attain dyslexia in your lifetime? I mean, outside of a brain injury, I suppose, right? Like, could you? Because when I was a kid, I used to read like crazy, read all the time, and nowadays I like don't read that much except for when I'm doing research and stuff like that. But I just wonder about that.
Perhaps.
So, buckle in, kids, because we're digging into a brief history of brain sciences. Now, when we say brief history, well, we're not very good at being brief, especially not lately. But I do want to note that we're going to cover a lot here. So if you want to learn more about, well, most of the stuff we're going to be talking about, you should check out our book, Brains Explained, available now wherever books are sold.
Hey, I thought that we said that we weren't going to do an ad, right?
Okay. Yeah, we sort of find a better way to ease into that. I mean, I do think that at the very least, we see a decline in our max rate of information input-output. That makes sense to me. The struggles of getting older, am I right? Better to perhaps think that than to pathologize myself. All right. Let's, we'll keep that for now. We might end up deleting that because I think we have a better take.
So
there.
buckle in.
Yeah, here's another one.
Thanks, Ryan.
So here's another take.
You should check out our Brains Explained, available now wherever books are sold.
Okay, end up doing another thing here.
You wrote that.
Okay. Here's another
So
take.
buckle in, kids, because we're
might be the
digging
last
into a
one.
brief.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, this is okay. I think this is one we're gonna keep because that's the one that flows.
Is actually going to be our sponsor for this video. So that's right, you're not.
Thanks. So buckle in, kids, because we're digging into a brief history of brain sciences. Now, when we say brief, well, we're not very good at being brief, especially not lately. But I do want to note that we're going to cover a lot here today. So if you want to learn more about, well, almost everything we're going to talk about, you should check out our book, Brains Explained, available now wherever books are sold.
I thought that we said we weren't going to do that.
Yeah, well.
I'm just kidding. Go buy our book. I think that the first big question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the difference between psychology and neuroscience today?
We asked some of our friends about this, and there are sort of two kinds of answers here. The first is that these two fields actually overlap a lot. We know plenty of people who work in neuroscience and psychology research, and some of the questions that people are asking, especially the folks in the more cognitive science realm, are definitely somewhere between psychology and neuroscience and don't firmly fit into either category. But if we do have to split the two fields up, I'd guess that most people would say neuroscience primarily studies the biology of the brain, including brain structures and cells, while psychology primarily studies the psyche, consciousness, and behavior.
So if we split neuroscience and psychology along those lines, then we'd start by saying,
Yeah. Micah messes up his line again.
so
All right. Now I got to find my good take, which I think is maybe here.
So if we split along those lines, so if we split along those lines, the mind essentially draws from.
Nope. Must be this one.
So if we split,
So this is the take here.
so if Nick Wynn.
What's up, my man? Good to see you. You're joining as we're in the editing process. So we are editing the video that's going to go up not this Wednesday, the Wednesday after. As you can see, it's both me and Allie in the video. We're talking about a brief history of brain sciences. And it should be pretty good. I think it'll turn out well. I'm hoping to do some nice visuals
Structures
over
and
top of
cells,
it.
while psychology primarily studies the psyche, consciousness, and behavior.
So if we split neuroscience and psychology along those lines, then essentially we could simplify it by saying that neuroscience is all about the body and psychology is all about the mind.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And if you're into philosophy, this might sound kind of familiar, you know? French philosopher René Descartes.
Like stumbling over my word there. This might sound kind of familiar. We might have a better take. Let me go back. Unremove some of these ones that we had. Oops.
Science is all about the body and psychology is all about the mind, right?
Fair.
And if you're familiar with philosophy, then that split might sound kind of familiar. French split might sound kind of familiar.
Let's keep that part.
So,
Because I hate having little flubs in there, you know. Let's do that.
is all about the body. Familiar, you know?
Let's see how that flows.
Philosophy, then that split might sound kind of familiar. French philosopher René Descartes of I Think Therefore I Am fame was a big proponent of the idea of mind-body dualism. And this philosophical perspective on consciousness and the mind essentially draws the line between our physical bodies and the substrate of the mind, essentially. So this theory separates what it considers the intangible nature of consciousness from the physical reality of the brain as a source of intelligence.
Descartes had an interesting illustration to demonstrate what he means by this.
Okay, we'll cut
As a
there.
source of intelligence.
So cut that, and because Allie does another take later on, I think it's probably right here. Boom. Bring that in.
Descartes had an interesting illustration to try and explain this theory. Check it out.
Oh,
So what's gonna happen, it's
Basically,
gonna pop
he
up right
thought
here in
that
front of my face.
sensory information, like light and sound, was received and processed by the brain, and then it was passed on to our intangible spiritual self, which existed in a non-physical form outside of the body. But
My face.
Is there any evidence that this theory is correct? Well, not really, but there also isn't super solid evidence that it isn't correct. There are lots of people studying the biology of consciousness, working to understand how the structures and connections of our brains come together to make each of us a unique, independent human being. There's also a lot of research looking at how different kinds of brain injuries affect personality and behavior, which you could argue demonstrates a direct impact on the mind. I personally think it's most likely that the physical structures of our brains, which are marked by our life experiences, our memories, and environmental and genetic influences, all come together in a complicated mess to make each of us who we are. But it's still possible that Descartes was right, and that on the other side of the brain's biology, there exists some intangible, separate thing that is or causes our human consciousness.
But let's not.
Okay. Yet another just solid take,
It's our
right?
human consciousness.
Very nice, very nice. Now I get to do my part. It's okay. I think I do a better take later on.
But let's.
Yeah. What do I mess up here?
I don't know, just like.
Neuroscience and psychology became separate fields. You want me to do that again?
No, that's fine. Did you
Maybe
you
I'll-
not want to cut there?
No, we can cut there.
Okay.
We can cut wherever we want.
Okay,
Let me do it one more time.
okay.
See, I'm a perfectionist, folks. It's just how I am. Just need to get the perfect take. Oh man, I'm gonna comment so hard on this video. That's great. Good. I can't wait. All right, we're gonna keep this for now, but probably gonna delete it in a second here.
But let's not put Descartes in front of the horse.
But
Whether or not Descartes was right or wrong, it's still a decent way to think about the division between neuroscience and psychology. I mean, so much as there is one, right? Like, neuroscientists are trying
for
to
the sub.
understand how the brain works, which can include
Smarathi?
questions about consciousness in the mind. And
Smarathi
psychologists are mostly focused on understanding the workings of the mind, but obviously that has ties to the functioning of the brain. So there's plenty of overlap, but we can agree that, at least on its surface,
Didn't mean to do that.
the split between mind and body is also the split between neuroscience and psychology. However, that doesn't explain how neuroscience and psychology became separate fields.
this is true.
Okay, I think that's good enough.
That is or causes our human consciousness.
But let's not put Descartes and
Okay, yeah. Separate
became separate fields.
This is true. You might think that neuroscience is younger than psychology because our technology for studying biology has advanced so much in just the last 70 years or so. But neuroscience has, to some degree, been around for a very long time, even if we didn't really know that much about what we were poking around at up there. And it's been closely entwined with what we might call psychology pretty much that whole time. As far back as ancient Greece, some natural philosophers like Hippocrates were already thinking that the brain was the seat of intelligence, while others like Aristotle thought it was the heart. Galen of ancient Rome believed the opposite of Descartes,
Oh,
saying that there
we
was
got a cat in
no
the
difference
background.
between the mental and the physical. He was pretty ahead of his time.
It's a little bit of a
Difference between the mental and the physical.
I know that there's another take. Let's see, maybe that's not the best place to cut there, so let's just watch her take again and see where might be a good place to cut, because she has this weird, like,
You might think that
small
neuroscience is younger than psychology because our technology for studying biology has advanced so much in just the last 70 years or so. But neuroscience has, to some degree, been around for a very long time, even if we didn't really know that much about what we were poking around at up there. And it's been closely entwined with what we might call psychology pretty much that whole time.
we'll cut there, because that's sort of the, like, setup for what she's about to talk
As
about.
far back as ancient Greece,
Okay, now we're looking for the take where she says, as far back as ancient Greece.
think that And it's been closely entwined with what we might call psychology pretty much the whole time.
There we go.
As far back as ancient Greece, some natural philosophers like Hippocrates were already thinking as far back as
Okay, see? I'm not the only one that messes up lines, right?
honest neuroscience.
Okay.
As far
Makes me
back
feel
as
better.
ancient Greece, some natural philosophers like Hippocrates were already thinking that the brain was the seat of intelligence, while others, like Aristotle, thought it was the heart. Galen of ancient Rome believed the opposite of Descartes, saying there was no difference or division between the mental and the physical. He was pretty ahead of his time for that one, but not all of Galen's ideas were good. He also thought that semen was produced by the brain, so yeah. To be honest, neuroscience wasn't really a
True
thing
story.
in ancient civilizations like Greece because dissections of the human brain were illegal. At least until about 300 BC, when Herophilus and Erostratus were permitted to conduct their anatomical dissections, which led to cool discoveries like the distinction between the cerebellum and the cerebrum. But while this was an interesting anatomical discovery, was it neuroscience?
Yeah. Let's do the... Okay, she has more takes, I think, where she pronounces the names correctly, but just for a little break. She talked about Galen, right? That's actually something that we grabbed from our book. Let's see if I can find. So dude actually thought that semen came from the brain. There we go. 27, 32, 37. Let's see. We talked about Galen a lot. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Some of Galen's ideas he came up with on his own, like the theory that sperm comes from your brain. No, really, he thought there was a direct pathway from your head to your junk. When someone gets hot and bothered, Galen believed your brain excretes semen into the spinal cord, where it mixes with the fatty residue from your other body juices as you warm up. This foamy substance then flows down your spinal cord and into your loins. Sure, why not? And although he believed the brain was the seat of intelligence, he believed we actually have three souls: the rational soul in our brain, the spiritual soul in our hearts, and the appetitive soul in our liver. I don't know about you, but when I'm hungry, my appetitive soul definitely possesses me. If you want to see, there's the page. All about Mr. Galen there. It's just fun. Just grabbing bits and pieces from our book too as we're talking about this. Yeah, I just read that part a couple days ago. Wild. Like, you gotta wonder what he thought was the mechanism of movement for the semen from there to there. Like, gravity can only do so much. I mean, from my understanding, they saw the spine as like a route. Now, it's worth noting that Galen didn't actually study human anatomy, or at least not human brains. Maybe he did study human bodies, but I'm pretty sure dissections weren't allowed. And so he instead studied other animals, like monkeys or cows and that sort of thing, and made a lot of bad assumptions about human anatomy based on that. So, I mean, he was creative. You got to give him that.
To be honest, neuroscience wasn't really a thing in ancient civilizations like Greece. To be honest,
Okay, so she does this a few times.
to be honest,
Look at Loki up there, just chilling. He wants to be hanging out, you know, be the star in the background. Galen, more like guessing. That's a good one. Well done. You get a golf clap for that. All right.
Neuroscience wasn't really a thing in ancient civilizations like Greece.
Does she have to do it again?
But while it wasn't
No. Okay. So this must be the good take here. Okay, so that's the take. We're gonna delete this. What came before?
But neuroscience has to. You might think that neuroscience is younger than psychology because our technology for studying biology has advanced so much in just the last 70 years or so. But neuroscience has to. To be honest, neuroscience wasn't really a thing in ancient.
Oh wait, hang on.
You might think that
Wait.
far back as ancient Greece, some natural philosophers like Hippocrates were already thinking that the brain was the seat of intelligence.
Wait.
To be honest, neuroscience, while others like Aristotle thought it was the heart. Galen of ancient Rome believed the opposite of Descartes, saying there was no difference or division between the mental and the physical. He was pretty ahead of his time for that one, but not all of Galen's ideas were good. He also thought that semen was produced by the brain, so yeah. To be honest, neuroscience wasn't. Neuroscience wasn't really a thing in ancient civilizations like Greece because dissections of the human brain were illegal.
We'll cut there. So I like that transition, and then we'll go into spitting facts right around here.
To be honest, neuroscience wasn't really a thing in ancient civilizations like Greece because dissections of the human brain were illegal.
Stop that. Remove that.
Were illegal, at least until about 300 BC, when Herophilus and Erasistratus were permitted to conduct their anatomical dissections, which led to cool discoveries like the distinction between the cerebellum and the cerebrum. But while this was an interesting anatomical discovery, was it really neuroscience?
I mean, ancient Egyptians were removing brains way earlier as part of their mummification process, but I don't think I would consider that neuroscience
No,
either.
probably not.
They just thought that it was like another organ to throw in the trash, you know?
I think I do a better take of that later on.
But while it
Yeah.
was an interesting, was it really neuroscience? But and the cerebrum. But while this was an interesting anatomical discovery, was it really neuroscience?
I mean,
Okay, let's see if we can flow into.
I mean,
See what we can do with that.
to throw in the
Nope, not that. Here?
Neuroscience?
I mean, ancient Egyptians were removing brains
work.
as part of their mummification process
Yeah.
way back in the day, but like, I wouldn't classify that as neuroscience. They just thought that it was just another organ to throw in the trash, right? Same thing for psychology. I mean, a lot.
Wait, is Loki teleporting? Hang on, let's find out. Oh wow, you're right.
Because dissections of the human brain were illegal, at least until
Wow.
about 300 BC.
I mean,
He's here, and then he's here, and then he's gone, and then he's back. That's okay. I mean, it will be a fun Easter egg for you to see in the background, but I don't think most people will notice, probably.
I mean, ancient Egyptians were removing brains as part of their mummification process way back in the day, but like, I wouldn't classify that as neuroscience. They just thought that it was just another organ to throw in the trash, right? Same thing for psychology. I mean, a lot of early civilizations thought that mental illnesses were some kind of demonic possession or something, and so treatments typically involved superstitions or incantations. But that's not really psychology, right? I guess it's psychology adjacent. I don't know, it's murky.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of examples of early forms of psychology and Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of examples of early forms of psychology and neuroscience, but they're still way different from our modern understanding. For example, Plato thought we had. For example, Plato.
Do we have that all in one take again later on? Let's find out.
I mean, there are a lot of examples of early forms of what you.
That seems like the take, perhaps. Let's make sure that this isn't.
All right, ready? But we need to.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
We'll remove that.
I don't know, it's murky.
I mean, there are a lot of examples of early forms of what you might call psychology and neuroscience, but they're still super different from our modern understanding. For example, Plato thought we had 3 psyches. Is that the start? Chinese monk Lin Ji conducted the first supposed psychology test. Is that the marker? Or take your pick of your favorite religion, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism. They all had early concepts of the self or the soul. It feels like there are a ton of examples of proto-neuroscience and proto-psychology out there, but they all look very different from our modern understanding.
I agree, but we need to put an arbitrary stake in the ground somewhere, right? Not really, but maybe the best place to point to as the start of old neuroscience would be our earliest example of neurology, seen during the Islamic Golden Age.
We're gonna cut there because I mess up shortly after. Nope, mess up again. Mess up again. Where do we mess up here?
So
There's this one. Let's see how I mess up here.
place to start.
Do we mess up here too?
So close. Illnesses. No. For 200 books.
Micah.
A lot of the things our buddy Galen said about the brain.
Wait, where did I end up picking up then?
And around the same time, there were cool things happening in psych.
Okay, so clearly I get one decently close.
I mean, I agree. Not really, but the best point is of old science during the Islamic Golden Age.
Boom. We can grab that.
Islamic Golden Age. Some physicians like Avicenna studied the brain by doing surgeries after head injuries and by observing symptoms of folks who were experiencing mental illnesses. In his first medical encyclopedia, which is the first such encyclopedia we know about in existence, right? He discussed a variety of neuropsychiatric conditions such as hallucinations, epilepsy, dementia, and insomnia, and a bunch of others. And around the same time, there were cool things happening in psychology too. A physician named Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi wrote over 200 books on medical observations that included mental and neurological illnesses. No.
So where do I pick up again?
And around the same time, there were cool
Okay.
others. And around the same a bunch of others. Insomnia.
We'll just stop there. We don't need the and a bunch of others.
And around the same
Okay, we do this a bunch of times.
and around this time and around the same
Okay, that's repeat.
and around the same
Okay, this looks like maybe it is the take that's gonna work. Let's see.
Later,
Okay, yeah, good. So we're starting here.
dementia and insomnia. And around the same time, there were a lot of really cool things happening in psychology too. A physician named Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi wrote over 200 books on medical observations that included mental and neurological illnesses, and he even developed the first recorded psychiatric ward where he treated people by providing them therapy. He even developed psychotherapy techniques that he employed with his patients, though it wasn't called psychotherapy at the time.
Later, during the Italian Renaissance, Andreas Vesalius took issue with a lot of the things that our buddy Galen said about the brain. Mostly because Galen didn't ever actually look at human brains, but instead studied animals, like macaques. Vesalius conducted public dissections of human bodies, including the brain, and had illustrators draw what he found, and so was able to identify a number of important brain structures, such as the corpus callosum. Leonardo da Vinci also did structures, such as the corpus callosum.
Okay, she does another take here.
Later, during the Italian Renaissance, Andreas Vesalius.
So we'll delete this. It's another take. I wonder how they stack up against each other.
Of course.
Let's find out. All right, I'm gonna play both of. Here's what's gonna happen, chat. Okay, I'm gonna play both of these takes here, and I want you to vote for which one you like better. This is take 1, and this is take 2. Okay, and I'll put a poll in. And I apologize to the folks who are watching over on Twitch right now because I can't do polls yet. I will be able to soon. So this is gonna be YouTube only right now. I'm gonna put a poll in there, and I want you to vote about which one you think is better, okay? All right, let's see here. So here's take 1.
And around the same time.
Oh, no, that is not the take. It is right here. All right, ready? Here we go.
Later, during the Italian Renaissance, Andreas Vesalius took issue with a lot of the things that our buddy Galen said about the brain. Mostly because Galen didn't ever actually look at human brains, but instead studied animals, like macaques. Vesalius conducted public dissections of human bodies, including the brain, and had illustrators draw what he found, and so was able to identify a number of important brain structures, such as the corpus callosum. Later, during the Italian...
So that was take 1, right? Here's take 2.
Later, during the Italian Renaissance, Andreas Vesalius took issue with a lot of the things our buddy Galen said about the brain, mostly because Galen didn't ever actually look at human brains, but instead studied animals, like macaques. Vesalius conducted public dissections of human bodies, including the brain, and had illustrators draw what he found, so he was able to identify a number of important brain structures, such as the corpus callosum.
Okay, that's take 2. All right, so vote now. Did you like take 1 better, or did you like take 2 better? And I'll play them one more time. Here we go.
Later, during the Italian Renaissance, Andreas Vesalius took issue with a lot of the things that our buddy Galen said about the brain, mostly because Galen didn't ever actually look at human brains, but instead studied animals, like macaques. Vesalius conducted public dissections of human bodies, including the brain, and had illustrators draw what he found, and so was able to identify a number of important brain structures, such as the corpus callosum. Later, during the Italian Renaissance, Andreas Vesalius took issue with a lot of the things our buddy Galen said about the brain, mostly because Galen didn't ever actually look at human brains, but instead studied animals, like macaques. Vesalius conducted public dissections of human bodies, including the brain, and had illustrators draw what he found, so he was able to identify a number of important brain structures, such as the corpus callosum.
All right, those are your options. We've already got a few votes coming in. Leave them in. If you're on Twitch, 1 for the first take, 2 for the second take. That's how we're gonna do this instead of a poll, all right? So let me know. 1's in chat for take 1, 2's in chat for take 2. And those of you on YouTube, you can just put in your vote. We've already got a few in. It is very one-sided right now. That's saying a lot to me. All right. Closing the poll in 10 seconds. All right, that's it. Ending. Take 1 it is. Thank you, everybody. In that case, we're gonna cut that. Check this out, right? Gone. You're out of here. We don't want you anymore. Hey, how's it going from Chile? That's awesome. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué pasa? Oh, how do you pronounce your name? Abrasha Gorus? Or how do you pronounce your name? Good to see you. Glad that you're joining. All right, let's get back into it, eh?
Leonardo da Vinci also did some stellar anatomical drawings of the brain.
One-sided. That was a good one, Manuel. I appreciate that.
But he had to hide them during his lifetime, as human dissections were not legal.
Take one.
Of course, during and after the
one-sided,
Renaissance, a number of people, mostly, philosophers who were...
And here I mess up again.
Not legal.
So we're gonna find my good take.
Of course, during...
Is it here or is it here?
Notable names include...
Nope, it's here.
Of course...
How did you find our channel, Abraxogurus? Did you just happen upon it? I'm kind of curious about that.
Human dissections were not legal.
Of course, during and after the Renaissance, a number of people, mostly philosophers at that time, got interested in psychological questions, though, again, they weren't called that at the time. The term psychology was first used by Croatian humanist Marko Marulic in the late 15th or early 16th century. But it came into use in English by the late 1600s, along with our friend René Descartes. Many of the great philosophers of the Enlightenment were very interested in psychology, particularly as it relates to the conscious self. Notably, there were people like Christian Wolff, who considered psychology its own science, and Immanuel Kant, who pushed... God damn it. Notable names...
Okay, we're gonna pick up there.
It came into... Along with our friend René Descartes, many of the great philosophers of the Enlightenment, particularly as it relates to the conscious self.
Not a great take, but we just kept going. So we'll cut there. And there, oops, delete that.
Particularly as it relates to the conscious self. Notable names include Christian Wolff, who considered psychology its own science, and Immanuel Kant, who pushed forward anthropology with psychology as an important component of the field.
There were also some very neuroscience-y experiments going on around then, such as the work of Luigi Galvani. He and his wife were conducting experiments on static electricity using frog skin when a spark jumped from a charged scalpel to the exposed sciatic nerve in the frog's leg, which made the leg twitch. He called this twitch animal electricity, which he believed powered the muscles. This was the start of electrophysiology, which is focused on studying the electrical properties of the brain and how our neurons use electricity to send signals. Some years later, a young writer named Mary Shelley would mention Galvani's work as part of the inspiration for her famous horror novel, Frankenstein.
Nice.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good take. I know that we do another take afterwards, but I don't think we actually need it. I think
Okay, let's do that. Paragraph one more time.
Okay.
It was good.
Allie's like, why are we redoing that one? I just
It was
did
great. We can keep going. I just want doubles.
We're like halfway.
We're like halfway through. Don't have very much time.
Once
Okay, we'll pick back up with mine right here.
Frankenstein.
Nice. Once we get towards the late 1800s into the 1900s, then we enter into the modern era of psychology, and you start to see some scientists and psychologists who you may have heard of. You know, like Freud, the famous first psychotherapist and cocaine-loving mother lover. More on that up there, up there. Or Pavlov, the dog lover. Not really, he was pretty awful to dogs. Or Jung, the dream interpreter and best friend of Freud, and the list goes on and on. There were a lot of conversations about trying to understand what motivates individuals, what goes...
I end up redoing that, I think.
Once we get to the late
Let's see what this tape sounds
Once we get to the late 1800s or the 19... Once we get in...
Come on, Micah. Get it right. Do I do it again?
Therapy...
No.
Once
Let's try that.
Once we get into the late 1800s and early 1900s, then we enter into the modern era of psychology, and you start to see some scientists and psychologists who you may have heard of, you know, like Freud, the famous first psychotherapist and cocaine-loving mother lover. More on that up there. Or Pavlov, the dog lover. Not really, he was pretty awful to dogs. Or Jung, the dream interpreter and best friend of Freud. And the list just keeps going on and on. There were a lot of conversations about trying to understand what motivates people or what goes wrong in the mind and how we find meaning in our lives. And therapy was in its infancy at this time. And
so that's a take. We're going to keep that.
Famous brain injury.
We're going to delete that.
Frankenstein.
Nice.
Uh,
Once we
okay, delete that.
Once we get into the late therapy,
How many takes do you do of this, Micah?
we also saw
No, that's it. Okay, great. So we can stop there. Start there.
therapy was in its infancy at the time. Freud essentially created the field, and this is also the time when famous brain injuries, like those of Phineas Gage or Victor Leborn, nicknamed Patient Tan, popped up in our history and led physicians to make connections between injuries in particular brain areas and their effects on cognition and behavior.
A bit later on, we had Ramonica Hall and Golgi debating.
Hey, serendipity, good to see you. Was just editing a video myself, going to sleep now at 3:49 p.m. PM or AM? Usually I try for 12 to 2 p.m. Polyphasic sleep episode when? Also, dream and sleep yoga is interesting. I don't think I am aware of sleep yoga. And are you saying that dream yoga is also a thing? That is new to me. You work the graveyard shift? Okay. Well, then that makes sense. Wow. So it's early night for you, huh? That must be hard. My dad worked night shift for a short period of time, and that just seems like... I don't know, man. That seems miserable. To me. I mean, and I'm a night owl too. You know, I'm the kind of person that likes to stay up really, really late. But it's an ancient Tibetan thing. Is it? Sleep yoga. Sleep yoga. That's for a pillow. Yoga for sleep. Sleep yoga may be the answer to your COVID insomnia. Bedtime yoga. Is it just yoga for sleep? Is that what it is? Let's look up dream yoga. What is dream yoga and how do you do it? Buddhist practitioners have understood for centuries that the illusions we encounter in dreams, blah, blah, blah. According to legend, we're most spiritually awake in deep, dreamless sleep, and the most asleep in so-called waking reality. Nocturnal meditations. The nocturnal meditations begin with lucid dreaming, which is the launching pad for exploring the deep inner space of the nighttime mind. So it's lucid dreaming, kind of. Is yoga meant to be like a bigger term beyond what we normally associate with yoga these days, which would be sort of like positions, you know, you're like doing something in particular? Because this seems different than that. I mean, I love lucid dreaming, could be its own video, and perhaps dream yoga can be. With dream yoga, instead of using your mind as an entertainment center, you turn it into a laboratory. You experiment with dream meditation and study your mind using a medium of dreams. Interesting. Well, it sounds very fascinating and something that I'm sure would be very appealing to folks. I don't know how much research there is with it, though. You know, like, what is there to talk about other than to say, here's this idea? Well, here we go. The science behind modern lucid dreaming has been a huge boon for dream yoga. So yeah, so there's lucid dreaming science. Dream yoga can develop into sleep yoga, which is what you were talking about, which is when awareness spreads not only into dreams, but also into deep dreamless sleep. With sleep yoga, your body goes into sleep mode, but your mind stays awake. You drop consciously into the very core of your being, the most subtle, formless awareness. I question this, I guess. Like, this seems questionable, I guess I would say. I mean, there's plenty that I do not know, but reading about this, at least from this perspective, I'd be curious to see. Let's see what Wikipedia says. So they're talking about the history of it. Well, okay, so this is interesting from a religious perspective, in that it seems to be, like you're saying, like it's an ancient Tibetan thing. There just doesn't seem to be very much research on it at this point. Lucid dreaming has a lot of research on it. Like, that's essentially what this sounds like. The primary aim of and foundation of dream practice are to realize during the dream that one is dreaming. Lucid dreaming. Once lucidity has been established and the applications are limitless. I agree. One can then dream with lucidity and do all sorts of things such as practice sadhana, receive initiations, empowerments, and transmissions, go to different places, planes, and lokas. Yeah, I mean, that's great. Lucid dreams are interesting. I guess the idea of like dream yoga seems to be just like applying a particular aim to the lucid dream. So, I mean, interesting stuff. I don't know if I would make a whole video about that, but I would mention it perhaps as part of a video about lucid dreaming. So, and that would be a cool topic, I think. I have never been able to consistently lucid dream before. Now that we're talking about sleeping, is there an optimal time to go to sleep, or is that different for every person? I was just watching a video about this actually from these sleep experts, and they said that it really doesn't matter actually. You know, there's the phrase like the early bird gets the worm and whatnot. I think a lot of people assume that having a circadian rhythm that aligns with sunrise and sunset is ideal. And I think there is probably some historical truth to that, in that, like, if you like, you're just more likely to wake up during those periods. But a night owl can be just as healthy, and their sleep won't affect them as much as you would think, right? Someone who goes to sleep at 3 a.m., and wakes up at 11 a.m., they're still getting their full sleep during that time. And as long as you have, like, blackout curtains or whatever, and you're not being disturbed or disrupted, then you're going to get good sleep. Now, the argument against that, against having a different sleep time or pattern, is socially based, right? So if you are expected to be at work at 8 a.m. and your sleep cycle is shifted, into the morning, then obviously that's gonna be a problem for you, right? And so our modern understanding of, like, work hours of, like, the first shift, which is where a majority of Americans work, right, is during that first shift time. That is perhaps the argument for having a, like, regular sleep time that's maybe from, like, 10 to 6 or whatever. So that's not optimal for the human body. It's just optimal for society. Let's see. You're hoping for a video about polyphasic sleep, but that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, if anybody were to do a video on polyphasic sleep, it would probably be Allie rather than me. But sleep studies have been done on lucid dreamers, but it's strange stuff for sure. Super strange, very weird. Let's see. Kind of reminds you of older psychology techniques. Blah, blah, blah. Social stuff was why polyphasic sleep was rough when I first tried it myself. So you're doing polyphasic sleep. I mean, it works for some people. I think I wouldn't be I don't like taking naps. I'd rather get all my sleeping done in one go, right? And then be up and ready to just, like, spend my whole day. So it's not really my jam. All right, let's get back into editing. So when we last left off,
Find meaning in our lives. Therapy was in its infancy at the time.
this is where we're at.
Freud essentially created the field. And this is also the time when famous brain injuries, like those of Phineas Gage or Victor Leborgne, nicknamed Patient Tan, popped up in our history and led physicians to make connections between injuries in particular brain areas and their effects on cognition and behavior.
A bit later on, we had Ramonica Hall and Golgi debating the...
Okay, that's right. She messes up there. So
Cognition and behavior.
we'll stop there.
A bit later.
And she restarts. Hey, thanks Super Mega World for the follow over on Twitch. Appreciate that. Super Mega World. That's a pretty great name. I said this before, but those of you watching on YouTube, if you want to come hang out with me over on Twitch, if that's a platform that you use, if it's a platform that you like, but also if you want to see me do stuff other than just editing videos, then definitely check me out over there. Let me drop the link in the chat. I dropped it in before, but might as well put it in again in case people didn't see it. There we go. You can feel free to follow me over there if you use the platform, right? If you don't follow me. I don't want your business. All right.
A bit later on, we had Ramonica Hall and Golgi debating the nature of the neurons within our brain, with Golgi thinking that they were all one big connected mass of tissue, sort of like a web or a system of tubes, while Ramonica Hall was pretty sure that they were separate individual cells. Golgi also invented an incredible technique for staining and viewing individual neurons, which Ramonica Hall used to study and draw them. Learn more about their debate and check out some of Ramonica Hall's beautiful drawings in this video. As we get into the 1900s, we start to see more distinct shifts in the separation between neurons in this video.
Okay, let's see here.
We also saw a huge boom.
As we get into the 1900s, we start to see more distinct shifts in the separation between neuroscience and psychology. Folks like Hodgkin and Huxley started to dig into the physical properties of the brain and how it sends signals. In their case, they used the giant squid axon to investigate the physics of the electrical signals sent by neurons.
Before we move any further, I just want to, because we're getting to the point where stuff is about to be revealed, right? But let's do a quick survey. I'm not going to put, well, no, I'm not going to put a poll in. I just want you to write in the chat, okay? What decade do you think neuroscience and psychology really started to split off? If you had to guess, right? When did they, it's really that neuroscience split off from psychology a little bit. Neuroscience also kind of split off from biology, right? So it sort of, came from two different streams and created one stream, the biology and the psychology side, and just sort of merged those two. So it's about to come up in the video. When do you think the two, and don't go peeking, all right? Don't go looking on Wikipedia or whatever. I mean, you can, it'll take you a while to find it anyway, but leave it in the chat. What decade do you think the divide happened, right? Okay, we already got a guess. 1930s. Interesting guess. All right. You feel like that was a wild time for science. Okay. Oh, we got another one around the 1970s. Just guessing without any information. All right. Good. Always good. That's what we're doing. You don't need the information. Just guess, right? Just put out a number, and we will find out. Keep putting them in there. I'm going to keep playing the video.
They used the giant squid axon to investigate the physics of the electrical signals sent by neurons. More up there.
So many videos. We also saw a huge boom in behaviorism, which essentially tried to argue that you could
1940s?
understand
Okay.
all aspects of the mind
Right.
just by observing our behaviors. It believed that behavior is either a reflexive response to the environment or
Okay.
essentially tried to argue that you could understand all aspects of the mind just by observing our behaviors.
Okay, we're going to cut there because I mess up a few times. I want to go to my good take, which I think is right here.
It believed that all aspects of the mind just by observing our behavior.
Okay.
It believed that by observing our behaviors. It believed that all behavior is either a reflexive response to our environment or predetermined by an individual's personal history and motivational state. This is where B.F. Skinner started stuffing.
I kind of want to take out that line. Like, it's okay, but it doesn't really, speak to me, you know?
It believed that all behavior is either a reflexive response to our environment or predetermined by an individual's personal history and motivational state.
Like, what does that mean, you know? I'm going to remove that. I don't like that. We'll just go straight into B.F. Skinner.
Observing our behaviors. This is where B.F. Skinner started stuffing pigeons in boxes to guide missiles during World War II. This was the point where psychology really started using the experimental method. Folks weren't just speculating on the nature of consciousness or the structure of the brain. They were actually coming up with hypotheses and attempting to test them in rigorous ways. This might be a good place to witness the divide between the fields of psychology and neuroscience because although researchers were using the same scientific method, you could see the distinction in the kinds of questions that they were asking. Scientists were starting to pick apart much more specific questions like, how does a neuron send a signal? Or how does childhood trauma affect our development as we age? or what functions do certain brain regions have, or how do we respond to authority, right?
Other
Kind of a weird take, but I think it'll be fine. Cut there. See how that works. Allie messes up here, so we're gonna go.
This might
Okay, I'm gonna okay, I redid that take. That's good because that was a weird take.
be a good ways.
Great. Gonna delete that.
This might be a good place to witness the divide between the two fields of psychology and neuroscience, because although researchers were using the same scientific method, you could see a
answer hasn't
distinction
come up
in the
yet.
types of
I'll
questions
let you
that were
know,
being asked.
but you can keep guessing.
So scientists were starting to pick
What
apart much
decade
more
did
scientific
neuroscience and
questions like
psychology split
how
off
does a
from one
neuron send a signal, or how does childhood trauma affect our development as we age, or what functions do certain brain regions have, or how do we respond in the face of authority?
Other new discoveries, like unpacking the structure of DNA and the development of incredibly powerful microscopes, gave scientists the tools they needed to really dig into the cellular and molecular biology of the brain. In fact, some scientists, such as Eric
Here we
Kandel,
go.
argue that the 1950s and 1960s are when neuroscience truly became its own distinct field. Mostly because that was when we started to be able to pick apart how brain
1950s
cells
and
worked.
1960s.
My graduate program at UC San Diego.
Okay. So, obviously that is up for dispute, right? It is an arbitrary line in the sand where somebody said, oh yeah, neuroscience is now its own thing here. And I mean, you can make an argument for a lot of different points, but the 1950s and 60s, which nobody guessed. We had the 70s, the 40s, the 30s. Y'all were right around on the outer perimeter. But it was the 1960s, 50s and 60s, when our technology just, leapt into this leapt to new heights. So now you know.
My graduate program at UC San Diego was, I believe, actually the first formal neurosciences graduate program when it started in 1969.
Wow.
Nice.
That's odd.
Okay.
A lot of those new techniques and technologies have also made it possible for us to study the biology of the brain
1950s was
in
my
full.
second guess because of the DNA thing, actually. Still a guess, though. Yeah, I mean, it's like I was saying, like, it's arbitrary. It really doesn't, it's not like, if you ask neuroscientists when neuroscience became its own field, I think you would get a wide range of answers even.
Lot of different animal models, from worms to flies to mice to monkeys, rapidly expanding our understanding of the structure and function of the brain and its components.
And of course, psychology kept plowing along, even as neuroscience really started to veer off into its own thing, right? On the applied side of psychology, huge advances were made in therapy, particularly in evidence-based practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is now sort of the gold standard for psychotherapy. Even perspectives on pathologizing different psychiatric conditions or illnesses such as autism, anxiety disorders, or eating disorders have shifted dramatically. There's also been a ton of psychology research studies focused on behavior, including famous and sometimes pretty bad studies that, like the learned helplessness experiment.
Messing up. Let's see, where do I pick up? Let's see.
There have also been tons.
Okay, so there have also been tons. So we're gonna undo that.
For psychotherapy. Even perspectives on pathology, such as autism, have shifted dramatically. There's also
Let me give myself a little
dramatically.
space. There's also been tons.
One big
Nope. Must be this one.
One big
Nope. Must be this one.
There have
There we go.
shifted dramatically. There have also been tons and tons of psychology research studies focused specifically on behavior, including famous and sometimes pretty bad studies like the learned helplessness experiment, where dogs were administered electric shocks until they stopped trying to escape and gave up. And of course, psychology research is still ongoing today.
Hopefully not like that.
No, hopefully not like that. Maybe like that. Today.
Hopefully not like that.
No, hopefully not like that.
We'll just cut that.
One big area of interest.
And then we'll cut to Allie's take.
One big.
These days,
Okay. Cut that. And that.
Hopefully not like that.
no, hopefully not like that.
One big area of interest right now is in better understanding global psychological trends. You might not know this, but most of the published psychology research out there was conducted in what we call weird populations.
That's not very nice.
Where weird stands for Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. Even more specifically, a lot of existing psychology research was done in white college students, and often just in white male college students, for a long time. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's still happening. If you've ever attended a
Ooh.
I mean, in a long time.
These days,
Cut there.
I mean, for a long time. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's still happening. If you've ever attended a psychology class in college, you were probably asked to participate in studies happening on campus. Your teacher might even have given you extra credit for doing so. And as shocked as the psychologists of yesteryear may be by this fact, it turns out that the white male college student experience is not universal.
All right. This is so true, by the way. Like, when I was in college, most of my college psychology courses, which obviously I took many of throughout my college career, required that I participate in psychology studies. Sometimes it was for extra credit, sometimes it was built into the class, like you needed to do that in order to pass, or in order to get credit, like just in order to get a good grade. And we had like a whole system for completing these tests. And I look at that, and I just think about how narrow of a band of the population that is, right? Now, obviously, colleges are much less male dominated. They're slowly becoming less white over time as the population is generally becoming less white, and as colleges are becoming more conscious of issues around diversity and inclusion and equity and all that stuff. But it's still, these days, like, I guess it becomes difficult to consider certain demographic issues, certain demographic areas that are extremely relevant to research. Not only like racial dynamics, but also socioeconomic status, or education level, or access to services. There's just so many different things that I think still are not fully addressed in most psychology research these days. That is my opinion. Just because most research ends up happening in these academic settings. And so it makes you wonder, like, is psychology research a silo of its own? Like, obviously not all research happens at a university, right? But a lot of it does. And so how much of the research that we have right now, how much of that is actually accurate and reflective of the real world versus how much of that is reflective of the ruling class, so to speak, in the United States? And I'm speaking specifically for the United States, I guess. Anyway, we can have a whole conversation about that. Maybe that should be a video at some point, but we won't dive into that too deep right now.
These days, psychology research generally encompasses the behavioral, cognitive, and social.
And
Okay, so that seems like it was a good take.
These days, psychology research generally encompasses the behavioral, cognitive, and social realms, studying how people interact with each other and with information and environments, as well as the places where psychology overlaps with other topics that humans care about, like economics or advertising or education. Neuroscience, on the other hand, typically focuses on the physical phenomena of the brain. Some would argue that neuroscience as a whole aims to explain all psychological processes by clarifying all of the biology that generates them. But whether or not neuroscience is capable of doing that is a whole other story. I mean, if we go back to the mind-body dualism debate, we're not even sure that the mind is just a product of the brain. So there might be something else beyond the biology that generates our consciousness.
Probably not, but I don't know. I mean, it's possible, right?
And like we said at the top,
Let's see if there's another take.
how to change
Nope. Okay. And this is the take.
and like we said at the top, there's still a lot
Manuel says, is it legal to give students credit for participating in trials? It seems questionable at best since they are kind of being forced to do them, but I can see how getting participants might be hard. It is legal because they do it. It might, I think in order to make it kosher, you have to kind of build it into your syllabus or make it extra credit. So I know, like, in my Psych 101 class, you know, it was extra credit, right? It's like, participate in this study and you'll get these points. But for like a statistics class, right, where we're talking about studies, they make you participate in a study. Or when we're talking about research fundamentals, you have to participate in a study or in multiple studies. You know, so there is a wide, like, most of my classes I needed to do some kind of study. But I mean, it is questionable, I suppose, because you're forcing them. But it's the same way that, like, you pay a participant to be in a study, right? Like, is it coercion or forcing someone to, is it coercion to get somebody to be in a study by paying them $100 for an hour of their time? Yes, but it's acceptable. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, to a certain degree, by having that incentive in place, you could make an argument that it makes the research better because people are more likely to participate more fully in order to get that money, in order to get the extra credit that they want, right? If you compare that, where, like, you know, that sort of model for getting participants to, for example, Mechanical Turk, which is a platform through Amazon for conducting certain studies or surveys online. there are researchers who use this, right, to collect big numbers of survey data for their psychological or other research. Your typical mechanical Turk user is less invested and less accountable for the study that they're participating in, because all they're doing is they're going to the website and they're trying to finish the study as quickly as possible in order to get the reward that they're supposed to receive, which I can't remember. I mean, it's like they get some digital money, I think, as a result of participating in this study. And so, you know, you can see people, like, you can see why maybe that data is less reliable potentially compared to some of this other data that's more in person and perhaps has more accountability. All right.
And like we said at the top, there's still a lot of overlap between the two fields. Some of that is related to how researchers are trying to understand the connection between the mind and the body. Like, where is the seat of consciousness? And is our soul just a result of the structures of our brain? How do changes in of our brain? How do changes in neuronal signaling or in brain structure size lead to psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder? And how can we treat those conditions with medication and with therapy? Today's technology lets us pick apart at some of the tiniest molecules in the body and surf through massive data sets of tens of thousands of genes and proteins. It also lets us directly track blood flow or electrical activity in the brain, and in some ways even lets us read minds. I mean, we're learning new stuff about the brain so quickly that the textbooks that I used in college just 10 years ago are now totally out of date.
Absolutely. Same thing for psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Psychology.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a growing number of research.
Okay, so clearly I messed this up a few times. Oh my.
Even my
Okay, so that one was good apparently.
For psychology.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a growing number of research and graduate programs are starting to recognize the overlap between the fields and are providing opportunities in both arenas. So, cognitive science is a good example of an arena that combines the elements of both neuroscience and psychology, as well as linguistics and computer science to conduct scientific studies of the brain. Neuropsychology is another area that seeks to address questions on both sides of that divide. There are even programs like at the University of California, Santa Barbara, they have the Dynamical Neuroscience graduate program that tries to develop specifically interdisciplinary spaces to address these topics. And there's some programs that are just called brain science in order to be more encompassing, and I kind of like that term.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, even my graduate program at UC San Diego had people studying questions across the spectrum of neuroscience and right up to the edge of psychology.
Absolutely.
Working to understand.
I think there's another take of that too.
Even my graduate program, people studying across the spectrum of neuroscience and right up to the edge of psychology.
Absolutely.
Working to understand the neural.
Okay, we'll
It's a good
just.
one. Good one.
Be more encompassing, and I kind of like that term.
Yeah, it's a good one.
We'll just start where she starts talking again. I think this is going to be a whole take here. Just see how
That's a
that
good one.
goes.
Even my graduate program at UC San Diego had people studying questions across the spectrum of neuroscience and right up to the edge of psychology, working to understand the neural correlates of behavior. So it may be more accurate to consider neuroscience and psychology as complementary and overlapping fields, rather than considering them to be totally separate or even at odds with one another. They're all brain sciences. They just have slightly different foci.
Foci. Interesting.
Why? What would you say?
Foci.
I don't think it's foci. I think it's foci.
All right.
Foci.
All right.
Boom.
I stand corrected.
Maybe we'll keep that in. Allie was very proud of herself for the fact that she pronounced foci correctly. I thought it was foci. You know, you have multiple focuses, multiple of focus. Apparently, it's pronounced foci. I thought it was foci. Hey Curtis, how's it going? Glad you're here. Thanks for joining. Hey Curtis, random question. And this goes for anyone else who maybe didn't reply earlier. What decade do you think neuroscience became? Oh, we already have an answer in the chat. You're probably already seeing that. When did neuroscience become its own separate field? 1000 BC. That's it. You got it, Peter. No, it wasn't 1000 BC. All right. What else is said here?
You're so proud of yourself.
Oh, didn't mean to do that. Cut that there. We'll keep it a little of this.
Now, this was a very... Now,
How many takes do we have of this?
now this...
But
well,
Okay, I think that is the one. We're approaching the end, folks. 1960s, you are right, Fiona. Well, it's 50s or 60s. The BC stands for before science. The C capitalized. Very funny. But yes, 50s or 60s is where the prevailing experts might say that neuroscience broke off and became its own thing, because that's when all of the technology really advanced to the point where examining on the cellular level became easier and much more feasible and much more common.
You're so proud of yourself.
Okay.
Now, this was a very brief history of brain science, and we mostly talked about how our two fields, psychology and neuroscience, have evolved with time. So, if you want to learn more about any of these topics, then you should definitely check out our book, Brains Explained, where we talk about almost all of this stuff, but in more depth and detail. And we also dig into the works of a lot of other scientists and physicians and psychologists and cool people. So seriously, it's all in here. So, oh, I'm doing another ad.
But it's an ad for us, and
yeah.
hopefully
Oh, well.
you like us. So seriously, we really had so much fun writing this book. We really hope that if you haven't already, you will take a minute to check it out, because it's, we think,
We love
really
it.
great.
Yes.
Thanks so much to Ryan for all of his support over the years, and especially for his help deciding on this video's topic and for the feedback he gave on its content.
Thanks, Ryan.
We are so grateful for his help making neurotransmissions awesome, and for the support of all of our patrons for making this work possible.
And for all of you watching this video right now, we're just so thankful for your
All of
support
you on the
over
stream.
the years. So thanks for watching this episode of Neurotransmissions.
Until our next transmission, I'm Allie Astrocyte.
And I'm Micah.
Over and out.
Think about it. Cool. All right.
What was
we're
in here
done.
that we didn't talk about?
All right. So then that is the end, right? 23 minutes, 32 seconds. Now, this has happened to me in the past where I have the initial cut, right? So here we are, initial cut. And I think it's gonna be about that long, but I realized that I actually forgot to delete some parts in here that are multiples. So we'll see if that happens. But what I would like to do now is start doing a little bit of effects, if you will. But before we get into more of that technical mumbo jumbo, I feel like we need a little cat break. So, Bill, say hi. Hello. He's just hanging out. He's wanting a lot of attention, but he doesn't want to sit on my lap. He just wants to like lay at my feet. He is a great cat. Such a nice cat. Where are you gonna go now? Oh boy, buddy. Causing problems. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go 10 out of 10 would trust to press buttons to express its needs. Well, you might trust Bill to do, I don't trust Bill to do that. Bill, you did not learn the buttons very well. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, one of the videos on our channel is teaching the cats how to press buttons, and it didn't go great. It went fine. It went okay. But that video, let me tell you, people get angry about that video. People have opinions about that video. Anyway, so what am I looking at? I was gonna pull up the video, but I don't know why I'm doing that. We're not gonna watch the video. Bill is getting in the way. He just wants to be, oh no, don't touch the microphone, bud. Come on. Come on. Turn that way. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay, you're kind of in the way now. Okay. All right, we're gonna go back to the beginning, back to the start. And we're gonna start bringing things into After Effects to edit them, all right? Here we go.
Yeah, do it again. Early in our relationship, when we were in college, Micah and I used to have joking conversations where we argued about which was better, neuroscience or psychology.
Clearly, it's psychology.
I was focused on understanding the biology of the brain.
And I wanted to understand the mind and consciousness.
All those conversations were a long time ago, and for many years we've been in firm agreement that neither psychology nor neuroscience is better than the other.
Look at Bill. Sorry. Can I just take a moment to point out this cat? He's just chilling. All right. Enough of that. Okay, so first things first. One thing that I think I'll want to do is put a picture of Allie and I on screen from when we were younger. So, bring this over. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at how I don't have very much space left on my disk. Luckily, I have still about 1.5 terabytes left on my other drive, but this is my solid state. I should really clean that out. All right, just gotta open up the LUT. That'll bring it in here. Let's bit it to size. And now I need to find a picture of Allie and I. And I might do this off screen. Pull up Facebook, because apparently that is the only place where I have pictures of us from way back in the day. Too large to be a floppy disk, that's true. Man, floppy disks. Oh, there's a game. Actually, let me show you this. There's a game that I used to play when I was a kid called Monuments of Mars. You can play it online because I found it the other day. What? I don't want to do that. That's dumb. Here. One of these has... Yeah, this is it. Oh, thanks for the sub. Who is that? Ayanvar. Thanks for the sub. Appreciate that. So, let's load this up. Just to show, this is like a slice of my childhood from when I was pretty young. Very, very young. So, the Monuments of Mars have very complex graphics and animation. Therefore, it will not run fast enough on any 8088 CPU, IBM, or compatible. In other words, you must have a system equipped with an 8086, whatever, doesn't matter. Somehow we had a system that was fast enough. Journey onwards. So this is, oh shoot, I didn't get the, what are the controls? Pause, quit, yes. Configure keyboard. So move left, move right, jump, and shoot. Space and left shift. Okay, that's what we want. X. 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 Can I not choose that? Escape. Okay, we're gonna try this again. So, yeah, that's it. Okay. So you were like this little alien dude who had to get through all of these levels. Oop, this little astronaut rather. You had to avoid the aliens. And it was very high tech for the time. I actually don't know if it was that high tech. This was just a fun game to play. We didn't have that many video games growing up, if I'm being honest. And so this was like mind-blowing. This one was awesome. But it had like weird rules. Like you had to kind of, I don't know, they didn't give you much direction. You just sort of had to like explore and figure things out. It wasn't much of a tutorial or anything. So you'd think that maybe you could go off screen, like over here or something, right? Because it's open. Nope, guess not. Instead, you gotta go here and drop down. That didn't work. All right, after finishing this level, I'm gonna get back to editing. But I just thought this was fun. Oh, my lord. This is what you come for, right? You click on a video that supposedly is gonna show you how I'm editing a video, and you come to watch early 90s video games. Oh my, come on. Alright, ready? We're gonna beat it this time. Just this level though. When I was a kid though, I was really good at this. Not gonna lie. Or at least in my mind I was. What? Alright, it's okay. Alright, here we go. Gonna jump over that dude, wait for that guy, jump up, and we fall. Alright, we're just gonna fall. I don't even care. Yay, we made it to the next level. Alright, that's it. Anyway, that's the game. So check it out. The Monuments of Mars. It's a little slice of childhood. Hey, Patrick Kelly, you're editing too? That's awesome. Happy to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And Tweedle Beetle, hello. How's it going? Manuel, that was all your fault for telling me that it's too large for a floppy disk, because that just got me thinking about floppy disks. All right. Back on track. I need to find a photo of Allie and I early on in our relationship. Not too hard, because we took a lot of pictures when we started dating. So let's try and find a good one. Check that one out. Reminds me of the games on my old Amiga. Oh man, Amiga. I never had an Amiga, but I could totally see that. All right, we're getting into the range when we started dating. Let's find out. Let's find a good picture. Let me present a few pictures, and you tell me which one you like. So it's black and white, and we're old, but not that old. Here, that one's better. There. So there's that one. All right. Option 1. Pull up another. There's that could work potentially. There's that one. All right. There's let's see. Is there another good one? Just us. I think there are. Maybe, you know, Allie has a bunch of these that I don't think ended up here. Let's look at my photos, because I think I've got my own. Let's see here. Go back, go back, go back. More. Too many photos, and Facebook is so slow to load. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting into the... Aw, look at those children. I know, we were babies. What the heck? What happened? I thought I was gonna be young forever. Nah. Things are pretty good in the current state, if I do say so myself. I'm pretty happy with life as is. All right. Sorry, Facebook just suddenly froze on loading images. It was like, I'm not gonna load anymore. This is as far back as I go. So I'm reloading. We'll try again. See if we can load some more up. Yeah, here we go. Now it's loading. Keep going. Why? Why are you stopping? Technology, man. Okay, so far we have this one, or we have that one. And if Facebook will ever load more. Okay, it's not going to, so let's try a different approach. Let's try going this way. Yeah. Maybe this. Okay, yeah, now we're getting early times. Okay, so there's, oh, that's not even saving as an image. Interesting. Can we save that? Download? Is there a download function? There we go. There's this one. Oh, the pictures are getting smaller and smaller. Trying to think if there's any others that would be good. I think that's close to the end in terms of what is readily available. So, well, this one's... Let's see if there's anything in this album. Anything good. Oh boy. Or there's that one, which actually doesn't look that dissimilar from the last one. So, okay, let's do another poll. You ready? Which picture? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, poll is up. If you are on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, just put the corresponding number. I'm going to be listing these off, all right? Let's make these in their own corners. That way it'll be easy to know which is which. People are already voting, even though they don't know which number goes with which picture. Hang on, folks. You don't even know. You don't even know what you're voting on yet. Okay, ready? So here's the deal. 1, right here, all right? This guy. So top left is 1. Top right is 2. Bottom left, 3. Bottom right, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Put in your votes. Which one do you like most? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll wait. Getting a decent amount of votes coming in. All right, all right. It's neck and neck. Just to go through again, we're voting on a picture to throw in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I'm going to preemptively eliminate number 3. I'm also going to preemptively eliminate number 4. So now we're between 1. Oh, what the heck just happened? One and 2. I don't know how I did that. Just like lost everything that I was working with. There we go. All right. Seems that people have decided. We're ending the poll. Winner is number 1. Thank you all for the votes. I think this will work well because it is the closest shot, right? So you'll get the clearest picture of us. So let's pull that one in. Let's see. Where was that? Right here? Yeah. Oh, I don't have After Effects up. So now we got After Effects up. We're gonna pull that image right in. Boom. Easy. We're gonna scale it down. We're gonna add a drop shadow to it. Right? And I'm also going to add Lumetri color, the same as we have here. Not really for most of the effects. Turn that off. All I really want is just that creative thing, just to help the colors match somewhat better. It's still not going to be perfect, but it's good enough. Wonderful. So Allie is going to say, early on in our relationship, let's turn the quality down so that it plays faster. Oh, I can't even hear her. Oh my gosh.
In our relationship.
Yeah, there it is.
Early in our relationship.
It's like kind of right. How should I position this exactly? Right? Like I can try to fit it in between us. That seems a little bit strange though, doesn't it? To like put the image right there. I guess I could put a few pictures of us, right? And just have them like line the side. Or the bottom, actually. Let me do that. I'm gonna zoom in on the video here. Let's actually see the title and action safe. We're gonna position ourselves down a bit, over, so we're nice and centered. And now, here's where the magic comes, magic of editing, right? So right now it's at 50%. I don't want it that big. So we'll do that. We'll push it over here and tell you what, everyone's a winner today. We're gonna bring in this image too. position that down. Yeah, I think these should be smaller. Let's do 50 again on this. On this image, what we need to do is trim it a bit. Like that. Boom. That's a bit big. So I'll scale that down as well. Right? So that it kind of still a bit big. By the way, I forgot to say this before. Patrick Kelly commented on our video or on the stream earlier. If you don't know Patrick, you should. He's another YouTuber who makes awesome videos. He's got 2 channels. I'm gonna link to his larger channel, which is called Corporis, and it is a channel all about the body. He's an awesome dude. So if you have not yet, there's his channel. Go subscribe to him. All right. He makes awesome stuff, and he's a really nice guy. So go sub to him over there. Let's see here. Let's bring up the scale slightly. I just want to make sure that it's approximately the same size. It's not going to be the same width, but height-wise, we're doing pretty good. Maybe I'll do 24. Just 23.5. There we go. Great. So there's that one. We'll drop in another one. Boom. Tiny picture. Tiny little one. Put down here. And last one. Okay, those ones are kind of similar to one another, so we're going to split those up. Phil, I hear you. I'm kind of busy. Kind of doing something. Oops. Bring this one over to one side. And this one over to the other side. Oh, not that one, not that one. This one. And now I'll tell you what we'll do. A little bit of movie magic. You select all your layers and you come up to Align. And you press this button right here. It'll distribute horizontally, and boom, now they're evenly distributed. Amazing, I love that. So what we're gonna do, we'll grab this, we'll scale that one up to about there. We're gonna do the same thing, we're gonna cut it around like so. We'll do the same thing. Hey, we got another subscriber. Theo Holbray, thanks for subscribing, Theo. Appreciate it. That's pretty nice. Bill, I know. Bill really wants you to pay attention to it, apparently. Let me show you what we're dealing with. Bill. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? Cats, man. All right, let's grab this last image here. We're gonna scale that up as well. Like maybe that. And then we'll cut that off as well. Like so. And then we'll move it down so that it matches the other ones. Now this last one is still a little bit off. Needs to be somewhat larger. Position down lower. And then we need to bring in the mask a bit so that it doesn't stick out so much. Like so, and like so. Great. just for the heck of it, we'll take the position, we'll move these all over ever so slightly. There. Voila, we've got an even distribution of images of us. Great. Now what? Well, now we select all of these. Drag them over. We're going to add a little transition to them. We're going to do ease, position, and rotate from the bottom in. Now it's applied to all of them, right? Like that. But it's in the wrong place.
Early in our relationship.
And we'll start doing them one by one. Now, I kind of position these weirdly. So let's put these in the correct order. There we go. So now what we're going to do is have them show up over time rather than having them all.
When we were in college, Micah and I used to have joking conversations where we argued about which was better.
And then we'll have them go out as well. Great. Turn on the motion blur, right? And I need to add a drop shadow to the other ones. I think I already added one here, right? Yeah, but it didn't get, it's not showing up. There it is. Now we're good. Actually, I'll put it up here and we'll, oops, up here, and we'll copy both lumetri and drop shadow. We'll apply that to all of these. There, there, there. Now, the drop shadow is different sizes on all these because they're all different sized images, which is kind of annoying. It's not the worst thing in the world though. So fix it there. This one needs to be longer. Right? And then this one needs to be shorter. It's these fine details that, you know, nobody notices, but are still, in my mind, worth doing.
When we were in college, Micah and I used to have joking conversations where we argued
Great.
about which was better, neuroscience or psychology.
Clearly. Okay, so she has neuroscience or psychology. All right, so what we could do is have the words actually pop up in her hand, which would be kind of fun. And then you track them to her hand and they whoop, disappear. The other one shows up and then disappears. We might do that. But we're not going to do it today because I'm actually going to end here. I just realized what time it is. It's 7 o'clock my time. I got to go eat and do some other stuff. I'll probably end up doing more streams during the week, so keep an eye out for that. But we're going to end streaming for today. But we're in a pretty good place. Essentially what we've done so far is... zoom out here. We cut the whole video already, right? So we have essentially all of our raw footage now put together, and we have all just the parts that we want. And those are all in one place, which is time consuming, takes a while, and now it's done, which is awesome. The next step is what we have just started, which is going into After Effects and taking all of these clips and adding some spice to them, a little bit of animation and whatnot. And that's what we'll be continuing to do. That's where we'll pick up in the next stream. So I appreciate all of you for hanging out with me today. Just to reiterate what I have said a couple of times during the stream, if you want to catch me streaming on, doing other stuff other than just editing, definitely follow me over on Twitch. I'll put the link there in the chat one more time. Like I said before, go follow or subscribe to Corporis, Patrick Kelly's channel, because it's awesome. But I've really enjoyed this. This has been great. I appreciate all your feedback. It's been really fun to get that live feedback to help me make decisions, especially with the thumbnail that we already edited. Let me pull that up here real quick. The thumbnail that we came up with, right? This is looking great. So I appreciate all your feedback on that. So keep an eye out for this when the video comes out later on. And yeah, and I appreciate it. Manuel, however you pronounce your name, don't even apologize. He said, sorry for distracting you while you're editing, but don't. That is the whole point of this, is to have those moments to break and talk about other stuff. So I appreciate you. All right, folks, I'm gonna wrap it up. So enjoy your evening. It's been a blast, and we'll talk more soon.